I was with a client this week talking about how we manage responses in highly charged emotional experiences and situations. And it reminded me, I had this conversation with him about a book by Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. If you haven't read it, it's a really interesting book. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who unfortunately was on the wrong side of Nazi Germany when they invaded Poland and was taken captive. And he survived the concentration camps, and as a result, his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, was published. In the second half of the book, he talks about his psychiatric model that he developed, that he called logotherapy. The whole principle behind logotherapy is that when something happens to us, in the split second between something happening and how we respond, there is a gap. And in that gap, we have the power to choose our response. And intellectually, it's quite an interesting concept and one that makes a lot of sense to us intellectually. When we're in the heat of emotion, when we're in the heat of very high pressure, stressful situations, it's really important to hold on to that thought, to recognize that something is happening, and before I respond, I have a gap, and in that gap, I have the opportunity to choose the response that I then take. And just the awareness that the gap exists and we have a choice can make a massive difference to how we manage ourselves through very difficult periods of time. So I wanted to share that with you as a principle. If you haven't read the book, I would highly recommend it. It's a very short book. You can read it probably within a week. Man's Search for Meaning. But the key principle in here, there is a gap between stimulus and response, and we have the power to choose how we respond in that gap. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It's very easy to understand this principle, not so easy to apply in practice, especially in stressful situations. It's one of those behaviors that we have to cultivate and develop over time, and I'd love to hear what you think. If you know about this already, how are you using this technique or this principle? And we'll talk on the next video about another experience linked to Viktor Frankl. But on this one, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you responding between key situations and then how you then act beyond that situation? So yeah, look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you on the next video from Focus and Growth.